Are you satisfied with your understanding of sustainability? If not, like me, imagine a journey together, a pluralistic one, with innovators, startup, academia, NGO, all together looking for solution to the greatest challenge of our time. I'm Samuele Tini, and this is the Sustainability Journey.
Welcome to another episode, and today we are going to discuss sustainability with an expert and a professor of strategy. We are very pleased to welcome here Martina Pasquini. She's the Associate Professor of Strategy at EI Business School in Madrid. Martina, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Samuel. Nice to be here and to contribute to your program.
Your research and your work, you are also in the B academics, you have done extensive research, so we know that you have an impressive curriculum. So before going to the professor and the work, so we want to know, who is Martina? How you have ended up in sustainability?
Sustainability is a journey, and indeed, I have a PhD in management and from Bocconi University in Italy, and my interest of research has been always in the area of strategy and strategy innovation, but always study from a demand perspective. Over the time, my research has evolved from pure technology strategy to the inclusion of themes of social impact and social responsibility. There was a turning point in my career when I was awarded a Marie Curie Fellowship from the European Union through the measure of Horizon 2020, where I presented a proposal to study this new form of companies called B corporations. And my proposal was entitled Between Social Value and Profitable Performance, the Case of B Corporation. And B Corporation were this new form of businesses certified, profit-seeking, but which received a certification to have a social impact on different aspects. The environment, the governance, the workers, but also consumers and community. Yeah, and consumers and community were the trigger for my interest because I was used to study consumers and users in strategy and in the innovation. So like community of users that diffuse the innovation, that improve the product, that enter in the new product development process. I was studying brand community and how users identify with a brand and stay loyal to a company. And this was the moment where I could say, okay, I can study also different types of communities of value. And so how companies can strategize through identity-based mechanism. And so like, as a part of my background, I've always had a kind of boundary spanning interest because I've always mixed theory and interest in social psychology. I've studied empathy, perspective taking, social identity theory, cognitive dissonance. And so like I thought that the B corporation could be a fertile background for new streams of research. And this, yes, has started my journey of sustainability. And just for the curiosity, when I wrote my proposal, in my proposal, there was written, B corporation are this new form of business that now count 1,000 B corporation in the US, and now we are almost 6,000. And in Europe, there were only 20 in all Europe and UK. So like imagine that in a few years, how this phenomenon has increasingly grown.
No, I can see also, we have hosted people in the B Corp, and it's really a movement that has now gone, we can say, to the moon and really making waves around the world. And I really like, Martina, how from your dissertation, your work and PhD, the Marie Curie, and your work that you have done with your fellowship and work, you have found your purpose and really become an expert on the sustainability. And a bit you have already also led me to the second question that is there that I wanted to ask you, because when you were discussing, you pointed out B Corp and the social value, the environmental value, but also you said a word, profit seeking. So social and financial goals, sometimes they seem like an oxymoron still in many businesses. So since you are teaching the future generation of leaders there in Spain and into the world, so is it really an oxymoron? How they can be together?
Yes, this is a challenging question, but it's a hot topic nowadays in academia. But already the fact that nowadays we are wondering if this is an oxymoron, and like some other field of studies would label like logic, two different logic. Hybrid organization talks about logic. Other theories talks about paradox, okay? So just the fact of being aware that this oxymoron can exist, it's because nowadays the society takes for granted that these two purposes might coexist. And nowadays the challenge is how handling this shift from social to financial, vice versa, or their coexistence. And so we talk on how to organize for good, the organization for good. And yet I don't have a positive answer here, so how to govern this duality. Yet there is the key question is whether and how we can organize the social goals to be financial viable, and also how non-profit organization can adopt a new organizational model to embrace different way or unconventional way of attracting fundings. In a recent study that I've done with one of my colleagues, Marco Giaratana, we have published a revision on the governance of businesses for purposes on the Oxford Research Encyclopedia. And we revised what has been so far. And we found that there are two ways of dealing with this duality. Okay, on the one hand, there is the assumption that a company must create a business model that integrates business, so social purposes and financial purposes. So social and economic goes hand in hand, but they must create synergies. Okay, so this is, and there is a challenge, the authenticity imperative. So like internal values and external actions must coincide. And if you want, for instance, an example, like think of Patagonia, like this is a way of integration of social and financial performance. So like there is this balance, but there are synergies. On the other way, there are other ways of strategizing, but with the assumption that these tensions exist. The only way to find a solution is the one of finding incentives or ways to smooth these type of tensions. Okay, so like all of these studies or all of this research is more focused on finding internal incentives, for instance, to employee, and create internal governance to reduce internal conflict. And a lot of studies and a lot of research in the domain of hybrid organizations is in these areas. For instance, if I want to give an example, in one very famous research published on Academy of Management Journal by Julie Battigliana and Silvia Dorado, these two experts were studying some microfinance organization with first commercial logic, and they found that the only way to smooth the tension between the commercial and the social logic is the one of create a new type of identity, because there is not a easy and a ready-to-wear model. But it's like the company needs to transform in something different. So, and beyond these social and financial goals also must be considered in a short or long term. Nowadays, there are debate on which are the best KPIs. So like, unfortunately, there is still a lot to say because there is not a unique strategy or a unique way to govern this type of organization.
Thank you, Martina, for the discussion. And it's really interesting to see the academic debate on how we can resolve the oxymoron work on the social side and the financial side. And usually in the podcast, we also go towards the audience and we try to see those debates. But how if somebody is listening, maybe some businesses, some leaders, some managers, they say, hey, Martina, you have done an awful lot of research on this topic. Which are some practical tips that you can give us? What we can really do, what we can really implement to go towards our journey?
I keep three main takeaways of my research that I think can have really kind of practical and managerial implication. First of all, we always talk about CSR and sustainability, pro-social initiatives, but all of these initiatives are heterogeneous. So not all actions create the same value for the companies and for focal stakeholders. So how you have to design sustainability actions. So in some of my research, for instance, I found that the role of proximity of CSR actions matters a lot towards customers and employees. More specifically, if a company invests in social initiatives that are closer to the stakeholders, closer to an employee, closer to a consumer, this creates more value because it's perceived, more authentic, because it's more visible, because there is a sense of community. And still closer not only to the focal customers, but also closer to the firm and the headquarter itself. Because this is a matter of efficiency. And we, through our research that it's lasting a few years, we collected a lot of evidence and yes, we found that the proximities to the stakeholders and to the firms create more perceived value, but also proximity to the core business. And this is very important because it's like a company running a business in the food and beverage, should also give charity in the schooling or in the poverty, in some education, or it's better that is investing maybe in recycling aluminium. And from our evidence, we notice that the actions that are closer to the core business are the ones that are perceived more authentic. So companies don't do everything, but be focused on something that usually you are known for. And then I have other two things that to me are very important from my research. Nowadays, still regarding being focused or being broader in terms of social goals. We talk nowadays a lot about the social developmental goal, the SDGs of the United Nations. And if you read the corporate report, the social corporate report, many firms declare that they have attempted and attained to tackle all the sustainability goals. But this is right or not? So which is the identity? It's better, so which is we talk about variety in terms of diversification. It's better to be focused on some specific goals, like the example of Patagonia before, but also the example of Kiels, focus more on the diversity, on the gender diversity. It has a very coherent image on few goals. We found that there are trade-offs because the broader is your identity, and broader is your scope of SDGs, the more stakeholders you are tackling, and maybe you comply with many external forces. But on the other hand, the company cannot be perceived completely authentic because it doesn't have a focus, a core focus in its values. Okay, so like it depends on different types of contingencies. And then the third and final point, how to communicate these SDGs and their involvement in different social actions. With two colleagues of mine, still Marco Giarratana and Milan Miric from the University of Southern California, we analyzed how companies communicate their social involvement through branding using trademarks, so registered trademark. And we saw that the way in which they trademark and then the way they are associated to product, so because trademark are brand, change the effect on the perception of consumers and the perception of the messages that the company convey. If the trademark is more visual or verbal. Verbal, meaning that it's more an explication of which are your goals and what are you doing with this sustainable product. And visual is just an image that it's evocative. On the one hand, you reduce a kind of asymmetry of information between the firm and the market. And so like you are communicating a kind of authenticity. But on the other hand, the visual is the one that evoke more emotions and feelings. And so they usually are the one that reduce the transparency, but boost the sense of community and involvement. So this matters. And we also noticed that if you use some wording in a false positive way, meaning I use health, I use green, I use word in misleading context that can be considered like a false positive message, this punishes a lot the firm. So like how to communicate also the firm's involvement is very crucial for the market reaction, because all of these strategy affect finally the firm's market value in different way.
Fantastic, Martina. This is a tremendous amount of insight and work in your research, and I'm sure I will ask to have the links that we will put in the description of the podcast of the papers, because it's really important insights that they can really make people, as you know, and give people insights on how to organize and how to walk into the sustainability journey, also to be aware of which are the trends and how they can improve their performance in work. And you know, I think from your research, you are now a professor of strategy, and strategy, it is fundamental piece of what, especially at one of the leading business schools in Europe, you are training the next generation. So we know that there is no planet B. We always have discussed that. So which strategy would you recommend to fulfill all these pledges that we heard? Last week, I was a few weeks ago, I was at the African Climate Summit, a lot of pledges. We will have COP soon, and then many more. And to transform the economic system from extractive to the regenerative. I know it's a tough question, and I know as a professor, you are also responsible to train the business leader, the CEO of the future.
Yeah, this is a difficult one because as I also told you before, there is not for the moment a consensus on the right strategy. But let's try to make things clear, like on my perspective, of course. So I can give two types of suggestions. On the one hand, like we can face this issue from a supply side, so from a firm-centric perspective. Okay, and clearly, because how to transform. This depends. We cannot have a unique and comprehensive answers. But from the firm standpoint, it really depends on the sector. where the firm is operating. And nowadays, for instance, one of the buzzwords is zero impact, carbon footprint, blah, blah, blah. But, while I was doing a study on sustainability using patents in semiconductors, I discovered that one of the main pressure in this industry is the water savings and the water wasting, because water is a critical resource in the semiconductor process, because they are water is needed to rinse, cool, clean the wafer of the semiconductor. So like you discover that each industry is a world apart. So like which is a takeaway of this? It's like that each industry has its own materiality. And so like there is not a unique strategy. And so each industry must be understood deeply from its operational standpoint, okay? Because it's in each industry, there is a particular type of pressure that must be solved. And so like, and through the real understanding of this pressure, firm can save resource, can recycle resource, can create a kind of resource circularity. And I think this is one of the solutions. But how to do this? Of course, company needs to invest in innovation and R&D. And given that you mentioned the Planet B, it reminds me a case that I wrote on a Spanish-based company, EcoAlf. I don't know if all of the audience is familiar, but it's a typical example of company that integrates the business model in its business model, the finance objective with the social one, founded in 2009. It's one of the first, if not the first, company that use 100%, so the total amount of thread recycled, and recycled from where? From plastic bottles, fishing nets, tires, and he has also a patent that through which you can also use coffee powder into the polymer. And so like, when you buy sneakers in EcoAlf, this sneakers was a bottle. And the advertisement of EcoAlf is like, when you wear this jacket, you are wearing 30 bottles of water. So like, they passed really from one of the pressure in the fashion industry, that it's one of the most polluting, to individuate where is the source of pollution. So let's try to reorganize our operations in order to create a circularity of resources. Clearly, it doesn't come out of the blue. There is no kind of magic. There is the knowledge, there is investment, R&D, not only in-house, but with alliance, with joint ventures, not only in Europe, but also outside Europe. But there is the effort of changing. So, and I told you, two types of answer. This is from the firm standpoint. And there is another type of answer that it's more, let's say, philosophical and dreamer, that it's more from a demand standpoint, meaning that how we can change the economy. Like the start is ourselves. So like it's the education, the awareness, the use of best practice every day. So like starting also from a conscious consumption, and it's utopia say no consumption, because it's impossible, but the conscious consumption, trying to consume and buy a more sustainable product from firms that are more committed to the sustainability, to the well-being, not only of the planet, but the well-being of their employees and stakeholders in general, without falling in the trap that also if you overconsume a sustainable product, you might be in the trap of the fast fashion or the fast consumption. So like, I think the awareness that we must change the way of living, it's a little seed that we must instill to this new generation, and can help to understand the world and interpret the world differently, maybe in the future. It's a more dreamer position, but if we don't start from something, we don't arrive to any point.
No, Martina, you are totally right, because as we know, of course, this management, the work that you say, also the example of EcoAlf is a wonderful one. But of course, it also depends on our choices. And as you say, it might be a dreamer, but we have to start. And dreams, sometimes become reality. And I think also we are trying to educate, and the work of the podcast is really this one to make more people aware and understand the importance of this journey. And to become a dreamer, you have to teach and to learn and to foster the business of good. And you are, as I say, an educator, somebody that really creates dream to become reality. You are involved in the academics, and also you are now also involved in the academics in Spain, and being one of the leaders, to see the research and the work of the business for good, this new form of enterprises and businesses in the area. So how are you shaping the research and the new leaders of tomorrow in your daily work? How you are trying to really shape the research, the work towards this future, this dream that you were mentioning about?
Yeah, I'm part of these networks of the academics, both at global level, but also in the group of Spain. And first, we try to spread the best practices. And so like we try to spread research, we try to spread case studies, teaching tools, so content, formative modules, not only to university, but also to enterprises. We are volunteers, so like it's something that we do from a vocational point. And beyond the research, that it's a part of work that I really like. Sometimes it's frustrating research because it takes lots of time. Yeah, but I always think that I'm also I can have the opportunity more than other people to make a social impact, and it's through the teaching. Okay. And imagine I teach a class of strategy where there is what is the purpose of the firm? It's the maximization of the profit. So like, yeah, I had to teach the mainstream strategy and the mainstream tool, but I'm also challenging the new students with the new way of interpret a business. And so I always include in my syllabi, my examples of businesses with purpose, of this hybrid form of businesses. And we try to discuss together all the challenges that we have mentioned so far. So like how to stay financially viable in front of some in front of some social constraint, and so like it's a way of enriching the mainstream approach with new ways of doing strategies and business. But I always try to push my students not only to study business for the sake of business, but I think that they also need, and also it's something that also we try to do with the curriculum, is that to include other type of skills. Like, as I was mentioning before, like we must create a different type of mindset. So like the new leaders, the new managers, the new generations must be generation with a different thinking schemas. Okay, they must be able more to handle with paradoxes, with this duality of objectives. They must be more open to empathy processes. So like I think that the education also in social science must be accompanied to other types of skills, not only also engineering skills, because you are a strategist, but you also need to know the operations. Okay, so like technical skills, but also soft skill and psychological skills, because the world is becoming more complex, and then we cannot just cultivate and target your own little area, your own little garden, but you must be more boundary spanning. And I always try to transmit this to my student. And if in a class of 50, I try to to convince at least one or two, for me it's already a success.
I know you are a leader, and you are able to convince and really create and shape them into what we are really in. I really like, the paradox that you mentioned and the word, because it's really sometimes paradoxical, but we really need to put together. It's not the time of maximization, full stop. We really need to have this broader look.
I have a work, but not now with the data or evidence, with a colleague of mine that we are trying to see how different types of educations, so like being exposed to classes of social impact or with the more social oriented content, which type of consequences have on the mental schema of the students. It's a long research, because of course the results can be measured and tested in the long term. So like, but when I will have some results, I will share.
Fantastic. So we are already booking you for a second episode, maybe in 1 year or 2 year times, to see where your data and which are the result of this very interesting, actually, research. And as I said, I mean, you have already given us a wonderful insights of your work and discussions, and we have already booked you for another episode. But as usual, we ask people, our guests, to give one tip to one message, something that for people that are joining their sustainability journey, that are starting in their journey, which advice you can give, since you have already walked a long way?
Sustainability is a journey, and it starts from our childhood. So like, because with our childhood, with the primary education, because as I told you, we need to shape a mindset that it's able to welcome and to receive these new forms of living, new forms of doing business. So like, the first suggestion is that the education is the most important tool that we have nowadays to teach that now the sustainability, it's not an option anymore, unfortunately. So here I can say unfortunately, because we are in a world characterized by climate change, resource scarcity. So like, it's not an option, it's an imperative. And so like it urged that we change our behavior, because if we want to have a better future, okay, we must start with this type of mental revolution. So like, and sustainability and social impact, it's not just climate change and resource scarcity, but sustainability is also social impact on the society. So like every aspect. So like every day we can do our little piece to make the life of the other better, just also with a smile. I think that this is the advice, to take the everyday life with light tender and to make the other people's life better, because we have nowadays a lot of problems, and so like we cannot fight and win one day the big fight, but we can win and fight every day with little battles. And so like let's try to help each other in some way to contribute to the personal social impact of each one. I'm a dreamer, I know, like, but
fantastic. And I'm sure your students are inspired by your smile, everyday smile when you enter in class, and really they can be shaped and become future leader with a strong social inclination and really do strategy in their own companies or being where they come after the school to be sustainability leaders. So I'm really thankful to you. Thank you so much, Martina, for your passion.
Thank you to you, Samuele. It's a pleasure also to have met you here in other circumstances, and for all what you do to spread a lot of information and construct this network. It's also sustainability. Thank you.
Fantastic, Martina. Thank you so much. A real pleasure. Are you satisfied after this wonderful episode? Let's continue together our sustainability journey.